Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much, Lord Griffiths, for these kind words. And I stay with what I said last night, namely, whatever we do have to make sure that the young people in our countries, not only in my country, gets a chance, gets a perspective, which means gets a job, gets a apprenticeship job. I stay with that. Last night I mentioned my shock about the 9% debt situation of Estland. And this morning I want to come up in saying I'm not shocked, I'm touched and I'm impressed about the fate of the three personalities we just heard here on the stage. I have fullest sensibility and sympathy to what they mentioned here. And as far as President Trump is concerned, I had the chance to speak to him. And I do not want to speak about what we spoke together. But it was about free market. What I want to say is, the day before the election, I had the federal councillor in front of my desk in my office, and he asked me to sign 2 letters, congratulation letters, for the 2 candidates. I refused. I signed only 1. And the next morning, the Chancellor was again in front of my desk, and I had to say the same. My dear Lord Griffiths, my dear Peter Foser, Excellencies, dear participants of the St. Gallen Symposium, dear leaders of tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your invitation. It's a great pleasure to participate at the symposium again. Ladies and gentlemen, life is change, and change begins in everyday life. There was a time when a telephone was a telephone and nothing more, black, heavy, and tight. Today, the phone is light, slim, and elegant. Wherever we go, it comes along. And modern mobile phones have unlimited functions. We can use them to surf, write, and shop, to make pictures, watch TV, find our way, and pay our bills. And even, every now and then, to call someone. From Alexander Graham Bell's monster to the smartphone of today, it's been an incredible development in a fairly short time. But it is a disruption, a break from all that was before. Human beings have an amazing ability to cope with change, but there are still some leaps in development that push us all to our limits. This is what we call disruption. So to open our symposium today, I would like to ask 4 basic questions. First, when does an innovation become a disruption? Second, how can we tame the power of the possible? Third, what exactly are we dealing with? And fourth, what do we need to do? First, let me start. First, when does an innovation become a disruption? Evolution is a natural development of what exists already. Renovation renews it, reform redesigns it, and revolution turns it on its head. But how can we know what is a true disruption and what is just an improvement? Was the wheel a disruption? Or the beginning of language 100,000 years ago? Is digitalization what today? And does disruption have to be an industrial affair? It seems not. The biggest changes to our world have been driven by wars, diseases, and disasters, and by all the isms like communism, capitalism, fascism, and fundamentalism. So there are many different turning points that change our world for the worse or for the better. But almost none of them are all good or all bad. The outcome depends on a lot of different factors. So if we talk of disruption here today, we should not forget that every stone we throw into the pool will make waves in the waters. How can we tame the power of the possible? Whether good or evil, every disruption is the child of a power, the power of the possible. But is this power limitless? Or are there ways to avoid its excesses? In politics, it's democracy that limits the power wherever such limits are needed. The people have the final say. In genetic engineering, it's legal restrictions. Governance knows the checks and balances. And our ethics and values help us to distinguish what is doable in theory and what is reasonable to do. But morality is as limited as any other restrictions. Some people will always do whatever is possible. So technological bans will not have much impact in the longer term. There's a well-known saying, I cite, people who say it cannot be done should not interrupt those who are doing it. That's probably true. So when it comes to industrial disruption, we must brace ourselves for the unimaginable. We must foster its positive potential, and we must not be blocked in advance by fears. What exactly are we dealing with? We already have one foot firmly in the fourth industrial revolution, but the other foot has not been planted there yet. Just like the first three industrial revolutions, mechanization, electrification, and automation, there's a lot of fear of the new. But let's not allow this to paralyze us. Our theme for today is the dilemma of disruption. And the dilemma, by definition, has as much upside as down. But a dilemma also means that we are caught between two things, between the pressure to continue our research and the fear of where it may lead us. When we talk today of the fourth industrial revolution, we don't only mean the Internet of Things, not just robotics and big data, and not just the combination of physical and virtual processes. We also mean artificial intelligence and memory extraction. In other words, changes to humanity itself. Waves in very deep waters. So the same magical word, digitalization, covers a giant range of issues, and we must tackle all of them, in political, in social, in scientific, and in ethical terms. What do we need to do? Digitalization offers opportunities and carries risks. We need to take the opportunities and limit the risks. But we don't yet know enough about what exactly will affect people, places, and jobs, or when or how. So the first thing we need to do is find out more. Find out more. To do it, give ourselves more scope. Digitalization is revolutionizing more and more processes all along the value chain. Success will depend on how fast we develop our digital competences. However much we know today, the next development step will already be underway. So what we need here is not just research and development, it's startups too. and agile SMEs that work like laboratories at the cutting edge of these trends and may sometimes fail. Only if we allow all this to happen, and if we refrain from imposing our hasty regulations, only then will we fully benefit from digitalization's positive potential. We can also create the scope we need by deregulating. Many of our existing laws were created before today's technologies arrived. That's why it's so vital to allow new business models to be tested, and that politics helps this to happen. Let me give you an example from the fintech sector. What the Swiss government is proposing here is a sandbox with lower hurdles for fintech companies with innovative technological solutions that are not actively involved in banking. These companies should be able to accept, under simplified conditions, deposits from the public up to 100 million Swiss francs. And in doing this, we are creating a testing zone which can be easily monitored, and it should help to improve the competitiveness of many vital sectors. One of the propositions at today's symposium is, for any change to happen, a receptive environment plays a vital role. This is a key point for me. The possibilities we have at stopping the future are pretty close to zero. And this is why we have such a duty to prepare as many people as possible for the disruptive changes ahead. I'm talking here as Secretary of Economics, Education and Research, not as a scientist. And I am talking as an enabler, not as a regulator. Our goal must be to integrate as many people as we can into the digital world. This is the only way to maintain full employment. We must find ways to ensure that the fourth industrial revolution leaves as few people as possible behind. And this begins with sensitizing everyone to the fact that we live in an age today that knows only one speed, namely fast. So what has our Swiss Federal Council done here to date? We have established a broad-based Digital Switzerland strategy. As far as my department is concerned, this is mainly about education and research, about the employment market, and about financing startups. On the education and research front, our Swiss system interlinks basic schooling, vocational training and universities, with each element building on the ones before. So here, the curricula need to be coordinated and aligned to our Digital Switzerland strategy. This also means expanding our university research capacities all the way to cyber ethics and closing competency gaps with new FIT institutes or with interdisciplinary institutes that are jointly run by several universities. On the employment market, digitalization is changing occupations, careers, and work itself. More and more people are trading fixed employment for independent working platforms, digital nomads instead of office employees. We are currently analyzing the impact of these trends on the present distinction between being an employee or being self-employed. And on workers' rights and social security issues, we don't want to block new forms of working, but we also don't want to end up with a kind of Wild West employment market. For our startups, we are thinking about a kind of future fund. Switzerland has a lot of private capital that startups could make use of, but risk capital investors are not common here compared to countries such as Israel or the USA. Let me stop briefly here. This text is a few days old, and we went through a discussion yesterday morning with a couple of entrepreneurs, Swiss entrepreneurs, rich people, sitting here in the room, partly at least, and we left our table in saying it's now the time to bring the money together, and it's now the time to establish such kind of a future fund. We do have to encourage ourselves to be prepared to take risks, to invest, to create chances, and to make sure that we prepare the jobs for the next and the upper next generation. I guess, and I said last night, I'm not naive. I'm still not naive. I guess that we made some sort of a breakthrough. And it's now really the time, and we need it. We need it to catch up our competitors all over the globe. Some 87% of the risk capital investors that we do have are from abroad. There's a lot of potential here. The solution to support Swiss startups is not a state fund, but a future fund, that's what I'm speaking about, based on private sector initiatives. This is what we are supporting, and in addition, our innovation promotion tools, such as the Commission for Technology and Innovation, which will become InnoSwiss next year, are becoming an even more important interface between innovation and the working world. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, the Federal Council has various digitalization initiatives up and running. The key thing will be whether they can all keep pace with the speed of reality. And I believe that they can, and I will be doing my utmost to ensure that they do. After all, as Mikhail Gorbachev apparently said, those who come late are punished by life. And that is exactly what we cannot allow to happen. I thank you very much for your attention, and I thank you very much for supporting us in creating a culture in this country, a culture about entrepreneurial spirit, being prepared to risk now, so to be able to offer jobs to the next and upper next generation. That's what really counts. Thank you so much.